revolutionary. And so I want to kind of dive in tonight and have you give some content. Some of the folks you know here are married, some folks are single, but I think everybody could improve the quality of their relationships if they learned how to express appreciation, affection in a more valuable way. So would you kind of just kick us off? Tell us, the book was first written in 1992. Would you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you stumble across 5 Love Languages? Did you intend for it to become an international bestseller and to change the world? Like, how did all this come about?
Well, I'll never forget the first time it dawned on me that what makes one person feel loved doesn't make another person feel loved. In my counseling office, I'd never met the couple, found out they'd been married to each other for 30 years. And after a bit of talk, the wife said, "Dr. Chapman, let me just tell you what the problem is. I just don't feel any love coming from him. We don't argue, we're civil, he does his thing, I do my thing, there's nothing going on between us, I just don't feel any love." I looked at the husband, and he said, "I don't understand her. I do everything I can to show her that I love her. If she sits there and tells you what she's been telling me," he said, "I don't know what else I can do." I said, "Well, what do you do to show your love to her?" He said, "Well, I get home from work before she does. I start the evening meal. Some nights I have it ready when she gets home. If not, she'll help me. After we eat, I wash the dishes every night. On Thursday night, I vacuum the floors. On Saturday, I wash the car, I mow the grass, I help her with the laundry," and he went on, and I was beginning to wonder, what does this woman do? It sounded to me like he was doing everything. I looked back at his wife, and she started crying, and she said, "He's right. He is a hard-working man, but we don't ever talk. We haven't talked in 20 years. He's always busy, mowing the grass, washing the floor, blah. And I realized here was a sincere husband who was loving his wife in the best way he knew how, but he wasn't connecting emotionally with his wife. And after that, I had similar stories over and over and over in my office. And finally, I thought, there's got to be a secret to this. So what I did was to go back through several years of notes that I made when I was counseling and ask myself the question, when someone said, "I feel like my spouse doesn't love me," what did they want? What were they complaining about? And their answers fell into 5 categories. And I started using it. And if you want her to feel loved, you've got to learn to express love in her language. If you want him to feel loved, you've got to learn to express love in his language. And I would help couples discover their language, challenge them to try it, and sometimes they'd come back in a couple of weeks and say, "Gary, this is changing things. The climate's different now." And then I started teaching it in small groups in our church, and the same thing with him. And probably 5 years later, I thought, if I could put this concept in a book and write it in the language of the common person, leave out psychological terms that many people would not understand, maybe I could help a lot of couples that I would never have time to see in my office. Little did I know that what you said earlier is true. It would sell over 20 million copies and be published in over 50 languages.
So you just had the passion of saying, "I want to help people. I want to be able to touch people's lives that I probably won't ever meet." And it went from being a message to being a calling. When it started to kind of take off, and you realize, wow, there's momentum. Wait, we're getting calls, we're getting interviews. People are walking up to me randomly saying, "You changed my life." What was that like when you started feeling the momentum of this message that you had uncovered to be like revolutionary?
Well, it was very rewarding because my passion has always been to help people where they are to grow in their relationships, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a parent-child relationship, whether it's friendships or whatever, is to help them grow. Because we're either growing in a relationship or we are regressing. We never stand still. And my passion has always been to help people grow. So when this began to take off, I stand amazed. I still stand amazed. In fact, people have asked me, how do I explain this? That it's year after year, it's sold more than it did the year before. And that doesn't happen to books over a 30-year period. And my answer was, I said, from my perspective, the short answer is God. And the long answer is God. I couldn't make that happen if I tried to make it happen.
Well, let's dive in. Some folks may or may not be aware, and I think some folks are only loosely familiar, but they may not really get the concept. So what are the 5 love languages? Kind of break them down for us.
Okay, one of them, and these are no particular order.
Sure.
One is words of affirmation. You look nice in that outfit.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate what you do. It's just using words to affirm the other person.
Yeah.
And then there's acts of service, doing something to help the other person. That's what the gentleman was speaking, who did all those things.
My wife texted me. She said, "Why don't you do all that?" I found out her love language right now. I appreciate you.
So actually, remember the old saying, actions speak louder than words. Well, if this is your love language, actions will speak louder than words.
Wow.
And then there's gifts. It's universal to give gifts as an expression of love. Before I studied counseling, I did an undergrad and a master's in cultural anthropology, studying cultures all over the world and how they're organized. We've never discovered a culture where gift giving is not an expression.
Say that again.
It's universal to give gifts.
Wow.
And then number 4 is quality time. Giving the person your undivided attention. I'm not talking about sitting in the same room with television. Someone else has your attention. TV is off. Computer is down. We're not answering our phone. We're giving each other our undivided attention. The lady who said, we don't ever talk, she didn't mean they didn't discuss logistics. Who's going to take the kids to school, which restaurant you want to go to. She didn't mean that. She meant we don't ever sit down and give each other our undivided attention and talk about our lives together. She was begging for quality time. And then number 5 is physical touch. We've long known the emotional power of physical touch. That's why we pick up babies, hold them, kiss them, and cuddle them, like I saw you do with your son earlier. Yeah. And long before the baby understands the meaning of the word love, the baby feels love by physical touch. So in a marriage, I'm talking about such things as holding hands, kissing, embracing, the whole sexual part of marriage, arm around the shoulder, driving down the road, put your hand on the other person's leg, and sitting around the house, they walk by, you trip them. Don't trip your spouse.
Now, I'll tell you, at times when my wife and I are doing really well, I feel like speaking each other's love language happens pretty fluidly. When there's tension, when there's unresolved conflict, when there's unforgiveness, when there's whatever it is, I feel like it's almost impossible to speak the person's love language. And sometimes I've even experienced where it's easy to weaponize love languages against your spouse. Well, you just aren't speaking my language, so I'm going to write off everything else you've done. Or until you learn to love me the way I want to be loved, I don't count anything. What does somebody do if they find themselves in a situation or relationship where either they or their partner, they're missing each other, and they're using the love language, you're not speaking my language, you're not serving my needs, you're not, but really there's unforgiveness at the root of it. There's some underlying conflict. What can you say to kind of unpack those kinds of situations? What can couples do?
Well, I think first of all I would say that attitude is a selfish attitude and not an attitude of love.
Go deeper on that.
Because love starts with an attitude, and an attitude is a fixed way of thinking. And the attitude of love is, I want to enrich your life. I want to do whatever I can to help you reach your goals in life. Selfishness is, I'm in this relationship for you to make me happy. And see, this is where we are in many marriages in America. And in fact, many of the people who come to the point of divorce, what they end up saying is, I haven't felt love for 15 years and I'm out here. And chances are they've already felt some love from somebody else out there. So they're leaving. So love starts with an attitude. Once we have that information, we're focusing on the other person, not on ourselves. And that doesn't mean that we don't want to be loved. We do. But we initiate an attitude of love toward them. Love stimulates love. And so I think that's a part of it. But I do think we have to deal with our failures. I think this is an essential the long-term healthy relationships. And that means apologizing. When you've hurt the other person, apologize. And then the response of forgiveness opens the door for the relationship to grow. But what I also discovered is people have different ideas on apology. So,
Go into that a little bit.
well, we typically apologize in the manner that our parents taught us. If our parents said, don't push your sister, go tell her you're sorry. So he says, I'm sorry, even if he's not. He's 23. If he offends his wife, what's he going to say? I'm sorry. And she's going to think you certainly are. So what we did, we asked thousands of people all over the country 2 questions.